The setup for the Eastern Mandala and the Western Rose window are all going to start off the same. So you're working with a 12-inch by 12-inch piece of paper. This is a scrapbook size piece of paper. You can get this stuff at any craft store available to you. So we want to find the exact center point on this piece of paper. So think about this. What is half of 12? Is 6. So lining up your ruler with the piece of paper down at the bottom, all right, it's going to be 12 inches. And you want to make a tick mark right where the 6 is. So here is the 6 inches, and you're going to do this on each side of the paper. So I'm just going to rotate my paper, and I'm going to mark the 6-inch mark on each side. So here we go. Marking the 6. Rotate that piece of paper, mark the 6 on each side so that you'll have 4 marks. And take your time when you do this. Make sure it needs to be precise. Once you've done that on all 4 sides, you're going to line those up. So I'm going to start off with that the left and right hand side. I want to make sure that it lines up nice and perfect. And then all I'm going to do is right where that 6 is on that line, I'm going to make a little horizontal line across it. I'm going to put a little dot right where that is. All right, so you can faintly see that. And draw lightly when you're doing this stuff, because these lines are just guidelines that you're creating. You don't need to make these really dark marks. And we're going to do the same for the vertical. So the top and the bottom, I'm going to line those up with that ruler. Right where those meet, X marks the spot. So that is the center point of our 12-inch by 12-inch piece of paper. And now what we're going to do is use a compass. So I have a compass here, and it has, on my compass, it has inches on one side and centimeters on the other. And it's really difficult to see. Let me see if I can zoom in. Now, for this particular one, I like using the centimeters. So I have mine marked at 14 centimeters. On the inch side, that's like 5 1/4 inch. So I just feel like it's easier to work with the centimeters for this particular assignment. But I've got it spread out to the 14 on that. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to take this little needle point on the compass, and I'm going to put it directly on that X, right where that spot is. X marks the spot. Once I've got that right on that spot, and I've got my compass set to the size I want, which is at the 14 centimeters, I'm going to lay that down, and I'm going to start to spin my compass, and I want to do this lightly, and it might take a few times to get that circle drawn on there. You want to make sure that it stays at that spot, and it's just drawing that circle on there lightly. I'm going to rotate my hand. And I've got a very faint circle, and that's good. We don't really need it to be super dark. Now, if you want to, you can go back over it, and you will eventually go back over it when you add in all your details to it. Now we're going to divide this into sections. And this is where things kind of shift and change between the rose window and the mandala. So the Eastern mandala, we're going to divide this, and the minimum of sections or slices that you need to have is 8. Think of like a pizza. So you would have the vertical, the horizontal, and then you're going to have diagonals that's going to break in and create 8 sections. With the rose window, I think it's best for you to have a minimum of 4 sections, and then you're going to go from there. So with the rose window, you are doing no less than 4 divisions. With the mandala, no less than 8 sections. So let's mark these up. Now what I'm going to do is we've already got those 6-inch marks all around the paper, which is great. That's our we're going to divide this into 4 sections. So I'm just going to line my ruler up again, and I'm going to draw as lightly as I can. I'm lining that ruler up with the 6-inch mark at the bottom and the 6-inch mark up at the top, making sure my ruler is nice and straight and even with those lines. Take your time, don't rush this part. And we're going to draw lightly with our pencil. These are just our guidelines. And I'm going to draw a little bit darker so that you can see on the screen, but I would like you to draw as lightly as you can because we really don't want to see them unless it's part of your design. But I've got them on there so you can, see really good. And let's do the horizontal. So here's my 6-inch. I'm going to line my ruler up with those marks I've already created. Make sure everything looks perfect before I make my mark. And there are the 4 sections, nice and equally spaced. So from this point, you could work on your rose window, and this would help you then design, the tracery that you're going to choose. And yours is being done based on, a window that you find that inspired you. So you could, simply stick with these 4, or if you feel that you need more sections to divide on there, then let's continue on with the video. As far as those that are doing the Eastern mandala, we have to have a minimum of 8 sections. So we've got halfway there. Now to do the middle parts, simple. You're going from this corner right to where X marks the spot. So you're going to take your ruler and you're going to line up with the corner of the paper and with that point right there on our X marks the spot. Make sure that things don't get shifted. Just because you look down here at the bottom and it looks right and then you move it up here doesn't mean you need to go back and look here, because this could shift again. So just make sure both are equally spaced. And you don't have to draw your line all the way to the corner because we just need this for the circle for our mandala. So all I'm going to do is take from that to the very end of our circle, and that's divided it now into 2. And you're going to repeat this process for each one. So from inside where X marks the spot, down here to the corner of that paper, make sure things line up nice and neat. Make sure both are where exactly they need to be. Put a little pressure on that ruler and draw to the end of the circle. Again, from the corner of that paper to X marks the spot. Line those up, make sure they're nice and even, and draw your guideline. And the last one, from the corner, X marks the spot. Make sure everything's nice and even, and draw your guideline. So now you have divided this into 8 sections. So let's talk about dividing this up or adding some of our internal radial designs or our circles inside. You can add as many that you need, but one think about this would be maybe you want to do a halfway mark in between the edge of your circle and the interior side. Well, that was set at 14 centimeters on the compass. So if I want to go halfway what would that be? Half of 14 is 7. So if I wanted to do a 7 centimeter circle from inside that space, I would just readjust my compass to 7 centimeters on the inches. That's just about 2.5 inches. Of course, that makes sense. And I'm going to have to sometimes readjust my pencil because we are less distant, so I kind of let my pencil find its way down to the paper. There we go. And then I got to tighten the grip on the pencil. I don't want it to loosen while I'm working with it. So tighten that grip. And what I'm going to do is line up my compass with that X marks the spot. And then if I wanted to do a 7-inch circle inside that space, and again, you can decide how many circles, how many designs you have, and it's best to put them in there. I think it's nice to put them in. But think about the mathematics that it's going to require for you to do that. We are using mathematics. So if we wanted to do, halfway, this was 14, halfway would be 7. If we wanted to do somewhere in between the two, what's half or, almost what's between 7, 8, 9, 10. So we could do about a 10 or an 11 inch in there. So you need to make these circles for your Eastern mandala, and you decide how many you have set up for your design. You could have a smaller one inside here. Let's say we wanted to do halfway. Well, 7 would be 3.5. So on the centimeters, we would just make this 3.5. Readjust that pencil because we're closer now to the paper. Tighten this. And then if I wanted to make a smaller one, X marks that spot. I take my compass. And there's a smaller circle inside there. So if I wanted to make one in between these parts, so 7 was this. Halfway between 7 and 14 is 7. So that would be like 10.5. Because think 3.5. I got to readjust my pencil again. You decide on the number of rings that your design is going to have. Now let me tell you, don't sit there with a minimum number and think that that's going to get through. If your design is well impactful, you can have less rings. But think about that and the design itself. You work from that. So here we are. This is at 5 or 10.5, and I'm able to set this up. At this point, this is for me personally, this would be plenty of rings. A good set of rings, 4 rings. And now if you need, more guidelines, you can create more guidelines on here, okay? But there you go. This is how you set up your design. And from here, you're now going to start adding in your geometric designs and details into your sections. Okay, and once you do that, then you're going to work with your color options. Now, as far as the background goes, okay, do not cut this. You want to keep this. You could do a nice gradient shade from dark to light or from light to dark, keeping it black or gray or some kind of achromatic color. Something that's not so much, or you could even go with your color scheme that you're working with and do some kind of design. I would keep most of the busyness for this interior part, and do something very simple on the exterior part, a solid shade to maybe a gradient. I wouldn't get any more busy with that because really you want your focus to be on the mandala itself. All right. But once you get your sketch done and your pencil drawing done, then you're going to go back in with color and finalize your mandala. Good luck with everything.